The February 26, 2024 regular city council meeting is called to order. The time is 6 p.m. Before we begin, council, please put away cell phones. If you have personal business during the meeting, please move for a recess. If you are participating telephonically, please mute your phone unless you are speaking. Also, when speaking, please state your name for those streaming the meeting. As a reminder to attendees, this meeting is being streamed live. The camera is located in the back of the council chambers above the clock. Robert's Rules of Order is the parliamentary authority for council meetings under the Wasilla Municipal Code 2.04.090. Under this authority, I respectfully request council observe the following. Kindly seek recognition before speaking. That no member speaks more than twice on the same motion without an affirmative vote on a motion to suspend the rules. That no member speaks a second time until everyone who wishes to do so has spoken once. The purpose of recognizing these rules is to ensure the right to speak is equally respected and that discussion is not dominated. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Crafton.
Here.
Councilmember Velock.
Here.
Councilmember Rubio.
Here.
You do have a quorum, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Sullivan Leonard is absent and excused unless objection is raised from the body. Councilmembers Graham, Johnson, Crafton, Velock, and Rubio are with us in chambers.
Okay, thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Councilmember Johnson, if you'd lead us.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, the first item of business is approval of the agenda. Are there changes to the agenda? Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to pull item 8.4.3, item number 2411, the new businesses.
Okay. Is there any other changes to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as amended. We are at special orders of the day. I'm going to read the proclamation recognizing the 50th anniversary of the incorporation of the city, and then the meeting will recess for a 15-minute refreshment break unless objection is raised. City of Wasilla Proclamation recognizing the 50th anniversary of the incorporation of the City of Wasilla. Whereas established in 1917 through a government land auction, Wasilla obtained its namesake from the respected Denina Athabascan native leader Chief Wasilla. And whereas Wasilla was strategically located where the Alaska Railroad crossed the main supply route known as the Carl Wagon Trail in the Willow Creek Mining District, allowing Wasilla to prosper as the self-proclaimed gateway to the Willow Creek Mining District. And whereas the subsequent development of the new George Parks Highway through Wasilla in early 1970s gave way for optimal business opportunities, shifting Wasilla from a small town and weekend destination to a hometown for workers in Anchorage and Wasilla. And whereas on February 26, 1974, voters approved Wasilla's incorporation as a second-class city under Title 29 of the Alaska Statutes. And whereas over the past 50 years, the City of Wasilla has observed significant progress in local planning, redevelopment, and infrastructure, supporting a population of over 11,000 residents and an estimated 111,923 adjacent borough residents who patronize the Wasilla business and commercial epicenter. And whereas the City of Wasilla celebrates its 50th anniversary by reveling all citizens, volunteers, business, community organizations, dedicated staff, and elected and appointed officials, past and present, who worked so hard then and now to enhance and exemplify the City of Wasilla. Now therefore, I, Glenda D. Ledford, Mayor for the City of Wasilla, do hereby recognize the City of Wasilla's 50th anniversary and proclaim 2024 as a year of celebration and urge all citizens to join in celebrating the City of Wasilla's 50th anniversary, dated this 26th day of February 2024. We are on a 15-minute break.
And if I may, Madam Mayor, if I could have
Yes.
the council and mayor join me in the conference room and we'll take some photos. And then we'd like to invite everybody in.
From Wasilla High School. Okay. Would you begin by please stating your first and last name?
Yes. Okay. Good afternoon, council members and Mayor Lanford. My name is Raven Cross, and I am the student body treasurer at Wasilla High School. I'm here to give you the monthly update of activities at Warrior Nation. A lot has been going on since our last update. So, scholars at our school participated in World Quest in Anchorage, Battle of Books at Colony High School, Spanish Declamation at Palmer High School, and a dynamics competition at Career Tech. They all did wonderful in their events, with a few of the Spanish Declamation participants going to the state competition this March. And our dynamics team was recognized for their community outreach to students at Iditarod. We also have our volleyball team that was recognized at the school board meeting for winning state championship, and our hockey team that won regions and got third at state, which was hosted by the Menard Center, where they were also received a sportsman award. Wasilla High School is very excited as we're looking forward to the Arctic Winter Games, where basketball games will be hosted. Lastly, after spring break, we will have our Spring Fling Spirit Week with an assembly at the end of the week to celebrate Warrior Pride. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The Airport Advisory Commission, Public Works Director Shaw.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So a week or two ago, we had the February Airport Advisory Commission meeting. Activities at that were re-election of officers, and so Commissioner McCarty was elected as chairman and Commissioner McCabe as vice chairman. There was also discussion about the airport CIP list that went to FAA, and also the list that we're working on for our budget process. And we talked about the creation of commercial lease lots on the east side of the property, or the side between the runway and the Menard. And there were 2 public attendees, and it was a short but effective meeting.
Thank you. Planning Commission meeting, Deputy Administrator Nygaard.
Thank you, Mayor. We met on, I guess it was last Tuesday, the 13th, and we passed a resolution supporting the goals and the initiatives for the annual capital improvement program for 2025. We also had a presentation from our contractor who has the new zoning map online. So if you go to cityofwasilla.gov under planning, you will now have a zoning map that is in collaboration with the borough. So it's the borough, my property, and then it has our zones over it. So, and if you go to the property information, you'll see what's allowed on that specific type property. So we welcome your feedback.
Thank you. We are now at public participation. There are 4 ordinances scheduled for public hearing this evening. Madam Clerk, please read ordinance serial number 24-10 by title.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's amending the fiscal year 2024 budget by appropriating $30,000 from the general fund balance to the cemetery improvements project fund.
The public hearing on ordinance serial number 2410 is now open. Anyone wishing to testify, please come forward and begin by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Seeing no one, we'll bring it back to the dais. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance serial number 2410?
Madam Mayor, I move ordinance serial 2410.
Is there a second?
Rubio seconds.
It's been moved by Councilmember Johnson and seconded by Councilmember Rubio to adopt ordinance serial number 24-10. Is there discussion? Hearing none. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is adopted. And the next one, 2411, was moved.
No.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please read ordinance serial number 24-11 by title.
Thank you. That's amending the fiscal year 2024 budget by appropriating $20,000 from the general fund balance for constructing a single speed hump.
The public hearing on ordinance serial number 24-11 is now open. Anyone wishing to testify, please come forward and begin by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person.
Good evening. My name is Robin Fisher, and I'm here tonight in support of Ordinance 24-11, which will provide funding for one additional speed hump on Whispering Woods Drive. Whispering Woods is located between Herman and Seward Meridian, paralleling the Parks Highway. The road currently has 5 speed humps, all spaced about 900 feet apart, with one exception. There's one stretch of the road that's approximately 1,800 feet long with no speed humps. Our road is used a lot as a bypass by many to avoid the lights and traffic around Herman and Seward Meridian. People who are using our road have very little consideration that it's a neighborhood, and their speeds are very evident of this. The speed limit on our road is 25 miles an hour. Many people are going 35 or 45, some upwards of 50. I have watched out my living room window on multiple occasions and seen drivers who are trying to go the speed limit. They're getting passed on the road by reckless drivers who have no consideration that this is a neighborhood. After watching that happen last summer, I contacted the city to see can I get a speed hump. I was told that a survey needed to be done, and if 51% of the residents on the street were in agreement, then the issue would be brought to the council. Last summer I completed the survey. I was able to speak with 31 out of 47 of the residents, and I believe that you have the results of the survey in your papers. Some of the comments that I heard from the neighbors I spoke to were they're concerned for their kids' safety as they're just walking across the street to the bus stop. Others have grandparents that live a few houses down, and they won't allow their kids just to walk a few houses down to visit grandparents. Not everyone did agree to a speed hump. There were 2 people that did not, but everyone does agree that there is a big problem with speed, and also that it's not coming from the residents. It's coming from the people who are using our road to bypass the highway. Whispering Woods is a neighborhood street. It's also a skinny street with no shoulders, and it's being ruined right now by people who don't live there and who aren't considering our neighborhood. There are not kids out riding bikes on our street. There are not families that are walking down our street because it is not safe. So I just ask that you would please consider if this was your street, where your kids lived, where your grandkids lived. I see on your websites, that you say you value citizens' concerns, suggestions, road improvements, children. So I just ask that you would, for myself and my neighborhood, act on these values and approve the ordinance for one speed hump. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to testify on the ordinance serial number 24-11? Please begin by stating your first and last name, and you are limited to 3 minutes.
My name is Constance Tyler, and I also live on Whispering Woods Drive, and I too have witnessed a great deal of traffic bypassing. I think a lot of it comes from the mall and people bypassing the highway traffic from the parks at Herman. The people go very, very fast down the road, and I'd like to see another speed bump added to help slow that down. There's one other speed bump on there. I know that this is specifically for one, but we had another where there was a road repair up on the west end of of Whispering Woods before the stop sign. When the road was repaired, it was raised, and so that one has been rendered about half of what it was originally, which is less effective. But at the very least, I'd like to see this newer one added if we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Please begin by stating your first and last name, and you are limited to 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Mark Fortunato. I also reside on Whispering Woods. And I'd like to thank you guys for at least entertaining the bill as it stands right now. I've resided on that street since 2008. And in the time that I've been on that road, as the shopping center up the street from us has grown, we have noticed an increase in traffic that's been coming down that road. I believe it was about 8 or 10 years ago, a combination of the the city and the borough came to an agreement and placed the 5 speed humps on the road. Our road is weird because part of it is within the borough and the other part is within the city. And like I live in the borough part, but it was an agreement that was made that there are 5 speed humps going to be placed on there. 3 were placed in the borough and the other 2 were placed in the city. There is that 1,800-foot stretch that there is no speed hump, and that is on a hill as well. So that allows vehicles to really increase some speed as they're going down that hill. In my professional life, I am trained in speed estimation, and walking my dogs along there, it is not uncommon for me to see vehicles that are traveling 40 to 50 miles an hour. I have been passed by vehicles that are driving down that street as well. Like someone said earlier, it is a neighborhood. I'm not here to resolve the problems. It's not going to fix itself that way with just a speed hump. It's going to require other speed or traffic calming measures. But I think the speed hump would help to reduce the speed on that road, would make things a little bit safer, and might make people consider another route as opposed to going through our neighborhood. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to testify on ordinance serial number 24-11? Seeing no one, public hearing is closed. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance serial number 24-11?
Madam Mayor, I move ordinance serial number 2411.
Is there a second?
Graham seconds.
It's been moved by Councilmember Crafton and seconded by Councilmember Graham to adopt ordinance serial number 24-11. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Crafton.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say how excited I am to see this come forward. I spent some time in this area when I was running for this seat, and I will say how terrible this road is. It hurts to see that people want to avoid traffic by going around and using neighborhoods like this. And I mean, they're not wrong. They had to be doing 40 or 50 miles an hour. It's near impossible just to walk along this road here. I think this is a first step. It's not going to be the solution to the problem. So I'm looking forward to seeing what other solutions we can come forward with to help alleviate and prevent further people from coming here. I'm super excited to at least take the first step in fixing the problem here. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Mr. Johnson.
Yes, Madam Mayor, to Public Works. So you've obviously looked at the budget for this, and that is appropriate to complete this $20,000 for a speed hump. It just seemed to me to be a little bit excessive.
To the mayor, it requires cutting and replacing asphalt, and we have a pretty specific profile that must have. So it has some contingency in it, but this is a pretty precise paved structure so that it isn't impacted. We've seen improperly installed speed humps that the drain plug off your car. That's not what we're trying to build here. We're trying to build something that allows you to drive at the correct speed over it safely, but limits excessive speed. So there's some overhead in this so that we don't have a problem with procurement, but this is an average cost that we're forecasting for construction this summer.
Follow-on question to that then, so you're planning on cutting out the road bed, building it back up then? Is that going to have any repercussions then with maintenance on that particular section down the road?
Through the mayor, so
In time, of course, not.
question on, you're talking about at the cold joints where the new
Yes.
and the old meet. We take that into account. We use a binder at that section and we apply a sealant at those edges. It's always best to install them all at the same time, but there's no need to wait to repave the road. This will be installed this summer and we'll install it so that it lasts.
Council, let me remind you to, when you're not speaking, to turn your mics off. Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, one of the folks that testified said there is a speed hump that essentially no longer functions as a speed hump. Is that in Burroughs section of the road? Is that in our section of the road? And what can we do to get that back to what it was before the repairs were made?
Through the mayor, I can't speak to which one that is off the top of my head, but we'll look into that. And if there's repairs that need to be made, we'd be happy to use remaining funds to do that if it's within our section. And if it's not, we'll talk with the borough about that.
Okay, is there further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is adopted. Okay, Madam Clerk, please read ordinance serial number 24-12 by title.
Thank you. That's amending the fiscal year 2024 budget by appropriating $250,000 from the general fund balance for additional paving preparation.
The public hearing on ordinance serial number 24-12 is now open. Anyone wishing to testify, please come forward and begin by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Seeing no one, public hearing is closed. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance serial number 24-12?
Madam Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance serial number 2412.
Is there a second?
Councilman Johnson seconds.
It's been moved by Councilmember Velock and seconded by Councilmember Johnson to adopt ordinance serial number 24-12. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Crafton.
just a quick question for our public works here. I know our initiative here, I believe 2025 is our estimated goal for paving everything. How far does this bring us along here?
Through the mayor, so the desire behind this request is to leverage the springtime construction period so that we're ready for the paving section that tends to take place after July 1st. So these are preemptive projects to be ready for a bidding of this coming paving season. To answer your question, we believe that we're still on track to finish by 2025.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is adopted. Madam Clerk, please read ordinance serial number 24-13 and the related resolution by title.
Thank you. Ordinance 2413, amending the fiscal year 2024 budget by appropriating $607,548 from the general fund balance for amending the current non-represented pay rates, a retention bonus, and a salary survey. With that is resolution serial number 2402, adopting the amended fiscal year 2024 salary structure and pay ranges for non-represented employees retroactive to January 1st, 2024.
The public hearing on ordinance serial number 2413 is now open. Anyone wishing to testify, please come forward and begin by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Keith Jones, you're first.
Lucky me, huh?
Yeah.
My name is Keith Jones. I'm a non-represented employee. Myself and many other non-rep employees here tonight supervise or work with union employees every day. We deserve to be paid equally in comparison to them. 15 years ago, Ordinance 0944 established the pay scale that is still used for the non-rep employees. Part of the summary statement of 0944 says, it's been determined that a grade and step system will not only be consistent with all labor agreements we have in place, but will also compensate non-represented employees fairly and equitably, both internally and externally. I don't think the council members who approved 0944 intended for union employees to end up being compensated better than us non-reps, but that is what has happened. Looking at the current fiscal year 24 pay scale, comparing Union 302 and us non-reps, it's evident that union employees have a pay advantage. Both scales have 13 steps, so they're easily compared. 302 employees receive an annual step increase of 3.2%, and their pay scale increases 46% between step 1 and step 13. Non-reps receive an annual step increase of 2.5% between steps 1 through 7, and then it reduces to 2.25% between steps 8 and 13. Our pay scale only increases 33% between steps 1 and 13. Because of the higher step increases, 302 employees receive larger annual raises and have a 13% advantage in pay scale growth compared to us non-reps. The part of Ordinance 0944 that talks about consistency and fairness concerning compensation has been ignored. Union employees' pay scales are determined during negotiations between union and administration. And once an agreement is reached, it's sent for council for approval. I've watched the last few council meetings when it comes to contracts and when they're ratified, and there's very little negative scrutiny concerning their pay scales. Matter of fact, during the police department's ratification in 2022, it was more of a question of, are we paying them enough? In the case you're voting on tonight, there were no employee negotiations. Our administration is being proactive. They realized the problem with the non-rep pay scale and proposed a fix with this ordinance. I believe voting yes will put us non-reps back on the same level as our union counterparts when it comes to pay. Thank you.
Next is Ashley Lawyer. You have 3 minutes. Please begin by stating your first and last name.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. My name is Ashley Lawyer, and I'm reading this letter on behalf of City Staff Accountant Elizabeth Smith, who could not be here today. I have been with the city as a staff accountant for over a year, and I support Ordinance 24-13. I believe that it is crucial that the City Council do the same. Overall, inflation has trended between 3.5% and 9% in the last 5 years. The price of milk alone has gone up 12.5% since 2019 in Alaska. However, that has seen in stark contrast to the rise of cost to everything from milk to electric bills. And that is, the city is not valuing the non-represented employees that have come to work every day to support the Wasilla area and greater Wasilla area citizens. In 2022, inflation hit Alaska at 8%, according to the Labor and Workforce Development Research and Analysis CPI, and the city gave a 2% pay increase, leaving a 6% deficit. As of right now, the city does not make good argument for itself when it comes to attracting and retaining qualified people. You may ask yourselves why. Some of the benefits that the city offers are nice. Healthcare is a big attraction for me when I was considering working for the city. That said, the benefits, healthcare costs included, do not compare to what private entities are offering, not only for individuals just starting, but also to retaining experienced, knowledgeable people. Bonuses, equitable pay increases, flexibility, etc. are all factor to what attracts new talent and what keeps knowledgeable pools in-house. Coming to the city was a huge personal shift for me. From a 15-year career that I had dedicated to myself, one of the things that I hoped will move forward as a non-represented employee in the city, investing is in its staff, to give me and other non-reps a reason to dedicate ourselves for 15 years or more. The step in that direction is for the council to approve Ordinance 24-13. Invest in the city, invest in us. Thank you for your time, Elizabeth Smith.
Thank you. Julianne Kistler. Please begin by stating your first and last name. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Council, Madam Mayor. My name is Julianne Kistler, and I am in support of Ordinance 24-13. I have been employed with the City of Wasilla for 7.5 years. During my time at the city, I have held 3 positions and have been in my current position as the Accounts Payable Clerk for the last 4 years. I love what I do and who I do it with. If this ordinance passes tonight, I will receive an additional $264.69 on my next paycheck. That may seem like a trivial amount of money, but the impact that it will have on my family is anything but. My family of 3 is supported by my income alone, and that extra amount will pay off my daughter's horse camp. Then the following paycheck with the extra 15% increase would also pay off my son's Victory Bible Camp. Annually, my take-home salary would increase by $6,881.94. Sadly, that would not even cover the balance of one kid's braces, even with our insurance coverage. But it would pay a chunk of it, or even a family vacation. We all came tonight to show of force to ask that you show that you appreciate us and all that we do by passing Ordinance 24-13. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Lacey Ficklin. Please begin by stating your first and last name. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Lacey Ficklin, and I'm currently the payroll clerk for the City of Wasilla. A little bit about me and my time with the city. I currently hold a bachelor's degree, and I've been with the city for 11 years. I started as a cashier and worked my way to my current position, which I've held for the last 7 years. After moving to the position of payroll clerk, I became certified as a payroll professional through the American Payroll Association. I am here in the support of Ordinance 24-13. For all of my education and work I have done to gain meaningful knowledge from my payroll position, I receive an extra $100 a month. Comparatively, we currently have a union that has negotiated that if you hold a bachelor's degree, you can receive 5% on top of your base wage. On top of that, they still receive that $100 per month that I do. Therefore, if I had received that 5% for my college degree, I would have made an additional $3,400 for the year, an incentive to continue to work for the city and share my knowledge. With the lack of comparable pay, we have a hard time retaining people, putting more strain on the employees that are picking up the slack of multiple people's jobs. We currently have the finance controller's position posted at the midpoint range since November, and we have yet to fill that position. When we are able to hire somebody and they turn around and leave for a higher paying job for either a private organization or the state of Alaska, the city isn't just losing that person, they're losing the training hours that went into that person and the morale of the staff that's left behind to pick up the slack. To highlight this, in the 11 years I've been here, I've been through 5 HR managers and 8 HR specialists. Thank you for taking the time to listen to all of us who came out today to talk about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Young. Please begin by stating your first and last name. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Melissa Young. I also work in the finance department. In May, I have worked here for 3 years. This has been brought forward for retention and recruitment of qualified employees. In that 3 years, I've seen 3 public works directors, 2 Menard Center directors, 3 chief of police, 4 IT, 4 HR. In my department alone, I've seen 3 directors, soon to be 3 controllers, 5 staff accountants, the staff accountant being the highest, and the workload, as previously stated, has been put over the department. In the last 2 years, there's only been 9 months that we have been fully staffed. I myself has a bachelor's degree, and I have 10 years of accounts receivable experience. Also notably, if you look at non-represented employees versus representative employees, there are 69% non-represented women to 31% men. If you look at union or representative employees, it's a 50 or 49-51% split. When you look at that, we're underpaid, we're mostly women. Since 2019, there has been a 30% increase in childcare nationwide. And that affects women. That affects whether or not the position can be filled, whether or not you can find the daycare assistants to have the position filled. There has been an 5.8% food inflation since then. Other people have talked about milk, we've talked about gas, we've talked about everything else. It does hit our bottom line, and it affects all of our families. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Michael Lopez. Please begin by stating your first and last name. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. My name is Mike Lopez. I've been an employee with the city for over 10 years. I've served as a police officer, a police sergeant, and now serve as a non-represented police lieutenant. As many of the other non-represented staff have said, I'm uncomfortable speaking about my wages and compensation, but I would feel remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to present City Council with information and data that I thought that they could use to make decisions for the progress, development, and betterment of the city. And its number one resource, its employees. Right now, the city touts itself as one of the fastest growing communities in the country, and our marketing highlights how great a place Wasilla is to live, work, and do business. I've heard the mayor and this very city council talk about how we want to be considered and treated like a first-rate city. But to be a first-rate city, we need first-rate employees. If we want first-rate employees, we need to pay them first-rate wages. It's simple math. I can't speak for other departments, but I can speak for the disparity in wages and benefits between the represented and non-represented members of the police department. For represented employees, promoting from police officer 2 to sergeant within our department is at minimum a 23% increase. Promoting to lieutenant and becoming non-represented, the pay increase because non-reps are ineligible for shift differential, overtime, and pay benefits is less than 10%. Plainly put, I took a position with more responsibility managing the 24/7 needs of the patrol division and took a pay cut to do it. In fact, I earn less than every sergeant that works with me and one earning nearly double my income. I'm not here to complain about my pay, but to explain my larger concern. At the police department, why would sergeants promote to lieutenant in the future? More importantly, for every directorate, including the chief of police, how do we compete regionally and entice the most forward-thinking, progressive leaders, innovators, and masters of their profession to work for the city of Wasilla? I'll tell you how. We pay them. We need more pay to get the best people. I urge the city council to approve this legislation. Anything but a yes vote today tells your employees, your greatest assets, that you don't care about them and that you think that they are adequately compensated now for the job that they do. A first-rate city needs first-rate staff, and first-rate staff needs first-rate pay. Advocate for your people. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and testify at this time? Seeing no one? We will bring it back to, I need a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move ordinance serial number 24-13 and the accompanying resolution.
Is there a second?
Second by Councilman Johnson.
It's been moved by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Johnson to adopt ordinance serial number 24-13 and resolution serial number 24-02. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Councilmember Graham.
Madam Mayor, I move to divide the question into 3 questions. Question number 1 being amending the current non-represented pay rates. Question number 2 being the retention bonus. And question number 3, the funding of the salary survey.
Okay. Okay, we have to vote on dividing the question.
Mayor?
Yes.
So you need a second, and then if there's a second, then we vote first on just the division. If everyone agrees with the division, then we take them separately.
Madam Mayor, I second that motion.
Okay. Okay.
Is there any objection?
Is there any objection to the motion?
divide the question.
Hearing none, now we need a motion to divide the question.
We're good. We're divided, Madam Mayor.
Are we?
We're divided.
Okay, we're divided.
So first, Councilmember Graham, refresh my memory. What do you want to take first? What are we taking first?
Madam Clerk, if it's all right, we'll just take them in the order they're listed here. First would be the amending the current non-represented pay rates.
Yep.
Okay.
And then, yep,
Okay, I need a motion to adopt
the pay raises.
the pay raises.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Okay, is there a second?
Rubio seconds.
It's been moved by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Rubio to adopt the amended,
Right, the motion before the council is approving the pay raises.
okay, how's that? Whatever Jamie said. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Jamie, for sorting that out. So the portion of the ordinance that deals with the pay raises is to provide funding for a market alignment increase of 15% to non-rep hourly and salary pay rates. The staff report does say that this makes the city's salary structure more competitive to help in the recruitment and retention of employees, and then it breaks down the 15% into two different pieces. It says the first 10% of this increase will be adjustments needed for higher than normal CPI numbers over the last 3 years. And 5% will be for market adjustments for salary trends. So a couple of points here. Number one, non-represented positions are non-represented because they have chosen not to be represented, with the exception of the professional positions. For instance, the police lieutenant, the division directors, the mayor, that sort of thing. Represented employees pay dues to a union, so their salaries are somewhat higher, but then they lose some of that salary because they pay dues to a union who represents them, who negotiates for them, who, I don't know exactly what the unions do, but I would be curious if I could ask finance, what percentage, are union dues based on a percentage of their salary, or how does that work? So essentially, if they're receiving 10% more in salary, are they really receiving 8% more because they're paying 2% in dues? Do you have an idea how that works?
Normally dues are based upon, they're usually given to us by the actual union. They make a decision based off their local union dues that they wish to have us directly take out of their deductions, out of their paychecks. Sometimes there's also a state organization that backs that also on top of that. So there's usually a local dues and then there's a state dues on top of that. The state is obviously determined by the state association that they belong to. And then their local dues are based upon what their union within their local chapter that they have.
And could you tell me approximately what that percentage is?
It's not a percentage, it's usually a dollar amount.
Okay, so could you tell me approximately what that percentage is for someone making, $2,000 a paycheck? What would?
It depends upon if they're full-time, part-time, and then it's based upon, so it's like $600 a year, and then it's divided out. So, and everybody is the same. So it's just, there's no way to base it off of a particular salary. It's not a percentage of their salary.
Okay, thank you. May I continue?
Yes.
Thank you. Didn't really answer the question, but that's okay. We can't know what we don't know. But the point is that represented employees are paying for their representation. Non-represented employees are not paying for their representation, and typically, you guys have been in on salary negotiations before. The non-reps and 302 kind of get lumped together when it comes to how the non-rep pay goes. So the represented employees do have an advantage over non-rep employees because they do pay the dues to their union, who then negotiates for them. I mean, in one case, it took us a year to negotiate with the Teamsters to or more than a year to negotiate with the Teamsters, get a contract. Just on fairly simple contracts, I mean, it takes at least 6 months for the city to negotiate, you know, through its lawyers and through finance and through the union reps to put these things together. And unfortunately, the non-reps are not part of that negotiation, but that is part of what's going on. What hasn't happened in the past is this 10% separation that has been talked about between different grade levels, and that hasn't happened in the past. And I've been sitting here for 9 years. I've never heard anybody mention it, which is unfortunate, because if someone had mentioned it, I certainly would be all over it to make sure that our non-represented folks are fairly treated. But so that first 10%, it talks about higher than normal CPI numbers over the last 3 years, and 5% will be for market adjustments for salary trends. I caution the council, you know, our CPI adjustments to salaries are made based on a 3-year average, and those are negotiated with the unions. It's my understanding that the non-reps receive that same CPI. And I see the director of finance over there shaking her head yes. So I really question the 10% over there, and then it says the 5% will be market adjustment for salary trends, which to me means, and hopefully you can correct me if I'm wrong, means that our salaries tend to run about 5% less than the other salaries that you evaluated here. So what we're really looking at here is a 5% adjustment to get comparable to comparability between represented and non-represented folks, and then 10% for excessive, you know, higher than normal CPI numbers. But and I really don't have a problem with that, but I'm just going to caution the council that that 10% is going to come up with these union contracts that we start negotiating. So it even though we have ever since I've been coming to city council meetings, which is, you know, 15, maybe even 20 years, you know, that CPI has been based on that 3-year floating average or kind of rolling average. So there is no big spike like this 10% here. So I'm not sure 10% is the right number there. You know, 10% over 3 years, you know, might be the right thing. I don't know. And I'm not sure where I'll go on this. I do know that our non-reps deserve a pay increase to bring them comparability with our represented employees, but it's the 10% that's sticking on me a little bit, because it's specifically designed as a CPI bump, and now all of a sudden we're giving non-reps a 10% bump, where we give our represented employees, I think 3.1 or 3.2 was our last represented number for this year. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is there further discussion?
Madam Mayor, to finance.
Mr. Johnson?
It was a little hard for me to tell because of the jobs were sort of scattered throughout the budget in the city. What is the overall impact to our wages of the $600,000? Is this like a 15% increase to the general salary budget that we've had within this year's budget?
To the finance director.
This is a direct 15% increase in salaries and benefits. So this includes their salaries and the benefits that are attached to it. So it would include our FICA, our SBS, and our PERS retirement on that. It actually equates out to roughly about 40. It's a 15% increase and about a 33.45% in regards to benefits that are attached to that for half the year.
So a follow-on question, and in essence, we're going to overrun the budget by $600,000 then. Is that correct?
No. So it currently is being noted in the fiscal note as being taken out of the general fund balance. Currently right now on projections with our sales tax revenue, we are actually ahead of our $23.1 million that we had projected for our sales tax revenue. We've already completed almost 75% of that $23.1 million we've already collected. We will be over in our sales tax revenue currently right now. It's projected almost anywhere from about $1.5 to $2 million. And so that would be where we would take that from. It'll end up being fund balance as it's a revenue over our expenditures.
Okay, is there further discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Ms. Vlock?
I do see where Councilmember Graham is coming from, calling 10% of that CPI when we do go to negotiate the union contracts. I'd almost like it better if it was just 15% and didn't talk about, make that a CPI number. I get where you're coming from there. I do agree that our city employees do need, to be compensated for their hard work, and I do plan to vote on this, but I do see where Councilman Graham's coming from, that we need to think about when we're negotiating on that union contracts also. Thank you.
Further discussion? Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Of course, we can't change what the staff report says, but we can clearly state what the intent of the ordinance is. And so currently the staff report lays out the intent of the ordinance as 10% for CPI, higher than normal CPI, and 5% for market adjustments or salary trends. I would like to change the intent of the 15% to being 7.5% for higher than normal CPI and 7.5% for market adjustments. It would still be 15%, would be no change to the amount of salary adjustment there. But as Ms. Vlock stated, I mean, the unions are gonna come forward and say, hey, you get 10%, in addition to what you normally gave them. So we need that 10% as well. So I would just like, and I don't know how to do this, Madam Clerk, just for the intent of the ordinance, the intent language to say that 7.5% is higher than normal CPI and 7.5% is market rate adjustment.
Through the chair to the council. Attorney Wells, are you online? Holly?
Yes, I'm here.
To answer your question, it will be reflected in the meeting minutes. There's no way to really reflect that in the ordinance if the numbers don't change. Holly, correct?
Yes, I agree.
Yep. So is
I
there a
do, I agree.
second?
So is that an amendment? Is that, so I make that amendment, Madam Mayor.
Okay, is there a second?
Second by Councilman Johnson.
Is there any objection?
To adjust?
To the 7.5 CPI 7.5, unless there's discussion.
Yes, is there discussion on this? Yeah.
Sure, so all we're doing is, we're gonna take 3 questions, so right now we're on the 15% pay raises. And all Mr. Graham is trying to do is to clarify that, and it will be reflected in the meeting minutes, 7.5 of that 15 is going to be related to CPI, 7.5 is going to be related to the market adjustments. End of the day, the 15% remains whole. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there further discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I think that the 7.5% breakdown really is justified. I think if you're looking at our current inflation rate, would be more in line with the national average than the 10%. So I think putting it that way out for future negotiations is probably justified.
Okay. Is there further discussion? Hearing none?
If I may, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Sorry, I know this is really confusing. So I'm assuming there's no objection. We didn't hear any objection to the 7.5. So we're all agreed. So we probably should next, if there's no further amendment or discussion, is there any objection to the 15% pay raises? So that passes as well.
Right. Okay. What is the next one?
Next one we're going to talk about is for $2,000 retention bonus.
Madam Mayor, I move, provide funding for a $2,000 retention bonus for all non-represented employees.
Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I second that.
It's been moved by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Vlock on the $2,000 one-time retention bonus. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you. So our employees, all employees, both represented and non-represented, have suffered, particularly over the last 2 years, with workload increases because of staff shortages. So some folks are doing significantly more than they signed up to do, and they are certainly champions for doing that. But I think in any organization, you see that employees come and go, and it really helps you sort out who the valuable employees are and who the ones that are just filling the seats are. So currently, all of our employees are valuable employees. They're all stepping up to do that little bit extra that's needed because the chair next to them is empty. So they're all stepping up to do that, and that certainly deserves a bonus. However, I would like to see this bonus structured differently. I would like to see a $1,000 initial bonus, and then at the completion of 1 year, so essentially the 1st of March of 2025. What year is this? 24? God, when I say 2025, it scares me. The 1st of March 2025, the additional $1,000 would be paid out, or that is the intention. I know we can't obligate the council to do that, but we could make it our intention that the bonus would be $2,000 with $1,000 paid this year and hopefully $1,000 paid on the 1st of March of 2025. Do I need a motion to do that, or what?
Yeah, go ahead.
Through the chair to the council, so what my recommendation is that you strike 2,000 and insert 1,000.
So amended. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Is there a second?
Is there a second?
Okay. Remains dies through the chair, I'm sorry, to the council, then that motion dies for the lack of a second, and so we're back to the $2,000 bonus.
Okay, is there a motion for the $2,000 one?
We already have.
Oh, we already have a motion, so is there other discussion?
Madam Mayor, I agree with Stu. I just didn't like the wording of dropping it from 2,000 to 1,000, because I think the intent was to divide it up with a $2,000 total bonus, but divide it into 2 payments such that you would structure a retention benefit. I think that was the way, and so that's why I spoke out of turn. I apologize for that, but I agree with the intent here. And I think that the $2,000 is probably justified, but just stretch it over a time period.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Attorney Wells, are you on the phone?
Yes.
My concern
I'm
here is we can't bind future councils fiscally. I mean, we can put that in as the intent, but there's no binding effect.
I agree that's a complicated legal arena when we talk about binding future legislatures. But yes, there's a risk that we take. So it's best to be stated as an intent or a purpose.
Madam Mayor, to the attorney, I disagree with that, because as long as the time period is within the current budget, you are not moving the payout to a separate budget or to a separate administration or council. You're keeping it within this 1 year time frame, but you're just putting it at the very end of the budget, which makes this council responsible for it.
Madam Mayor, may I respond to that?
Mr. Crafton?
Thank you. I mean, we're about to run into a budget cycle here, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, so I think with Mr. Graham's intent, yes, it would come up to a new one. And we'd cross an election cycle as well at that point. So we would be, theoretically, could have 2 different council members a year from now. I mean, what if we looked at something that was 6 months down the road at that point? Would that, I mean, that's a different budget, but not a different council at that point.
You can't encumber funds.
Madam Mayor.
Holly, you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I mean, what's difficult about this is it's not a clear answer, right? So we don't know. I mean, I think council can amend it and pass it, but we just need to be aware that there's risk. But the other thing to consider is there's always the opportunity for change, right? That's what we use appropriations for, in a sense. So the same way that an ordinance is passed, it can be undone. So I think I think council should do what its intent is, and to the extent that there is an enforcement problem due to the legislature, the binding of future legislatures, I think that is when we will address that issue. I mean, there's just going to be some uncertainty.
Okay. Ms. Rubio.
I'm all for stamping it and approving it as is. So let's take a vote.
Okay, so did you call for the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Do it.
Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please, ma'am.
Roll call vote then.
Point of order, when someone calls the question, isn't that?
Oh, you gotta-
vote on
well-
to just end discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
How I took it was she, as chair, we can do a redo, but she was quicker to the draw. She restated it, so at that point it's out there. But Mr. Graham is correct. We should have a second. So we want to use this as
Okay.
a learning opportunity? A redo?
Mr. Graham, you're causing me to have a way big headache.
I took my Tylenol before the meeting.
I know, that's what you're here for.
So
Anyway,
is there
a second
to close debate?
to close debate?
I second it.
Okay.
Is there any objection?
Any objection to the motion?
Hearing none.
Hearing none. Madam Clerk, please, roll call vote.
Okay, council, debate ended. This is a roll call on the $2,000 bonus as is. And bear with me here. Councilmember Graham.
Can you come back to me, please?
Well, I do go in order. I'm sorry. Do you guys want to start
No.
saying who wants to go back to who, or? Sorry.
You have to vote.
Take your time. Okay.
Yeah, there's no rush.
I vote no.
No? Johnson.
I'll vote yes.
Councilmember Crafton.
No.
Councilmember Velock.
Yes.
Councilmember Rubio.
Yes.
Fails with council members Johnson, Velock, and Rubio in support, Graham and Crafton opposed.
Don't you mean it passes?
No, we need 4 to pass. We are
Oh,
3-2.
okay.
And I don't get to vote.
No, ma'am.
Only a try, right?
So no, so it's failed. No bonus.
Okay, the last one. Madam Clerk.
Third part of the question.
I'm sorry, that was discussion. Third part is we are talking salary survey.
Madam Mayor, I move to appropriate $50,000 to the Human Resources Department contract services for a salary survey.
Is there a second?
Councilmember Velock, I second that.
It's been moved by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Velock to appropriate $50,000 to the HR department for a salary survey. Is there a discussion?
Madam Mayor, I believe the deputy administrator was kind of behind looking into the salary survey. Could you tell us a little bit about what's involved?
To the mayor, to Councilmember Graham, yes. So the HR manager and myself have been in conversation with contractors who provide the survey. As you are well aware, when we were at Alaska Municipal League, there are a lot of cities doing these right now. So for us to meet this timeline, we added a little bit more so we can get in front of the budget process. And so we do have, and if the HR manager would like to speak more on this, but we did get quotes from 2 vendors to ensure that that was a good price.
And follow up, Madam Mayor?
Mr. Graham?
And this salary survey is not going to include just government employees, various governments across the state and the region, but also would look at private employers that operate in our area. Is that correct?
You are correct.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay, is there further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if anybody wants to do anything, we'll take a final vote.
Final
Would you
vote
like
on,
the ordinance?
okay, well, at the appropriate time, I will move for reconsideration of the bonus vote only, but
Yes.
is that,
Mhm.
since we divided it into 3 questions, is this the appropriate time
Yes,
to
sir.
do that?
Mhm.
So I would like, Madam Mayor, I move to reconsider the vote for the $2,000 retention bonus, and my intent is to bring forward a $1,000 retention bonus. And I
Is there a
vote-
second?
Second, by Councilman Johnson.
The motion's been made by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Johnson to reconsider the $2,000 bonus. Is there discussion? Mr. Graham?
Is there objection to the reconsideration?
Oh, is there objection to the reconsideration first?
No objection, so Madam Mayor, if I may, I'm sorry.
Yes.
So we're back to exactly where we started. $2,000 is on the table
Is a motion needed for that, or?
to strike.
It's already been made.
Okay, so Madam Mayor, I move to amend the motion to strike the number 2,000 and insert the number 1,000. So it basically would read that we're going to provide funding for a $1,000 retention bonus for all non-represented employees. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
It's been, the amendment has been made by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Johnson to amend the resolution to $1,000 bonus. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor. And I do see where Councilmember Graham is going, because to retain, he wants to see $1,000 this year, $1,000 next year, and so on. And I totally get that. So there is some incentive to stay. I personally think 1,000 is too small. I personally would like to see it be 2,000 this year and 2,000 next year, because $1,000 isn't a huge bonus. I mean, it's just not. And like I said, I totally get where Stu's coming from, though. We want that for retain. You give it all to them now, why should they stay? I would like to see, even though I know we can't put it in the language, but maybe the intent is 2,000 this year, 2,000 next year, and maybe 2,000 on the 3rd year, but something to retain. I just don't think 1,000's enough.
Okay, is there further discussion? Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And, well, I agree with Councilmember Velak that $1,000 isn't a lot of money. The pay raises that we're talking about, we heard, it's gonna be $250, $260 a paycheck. I mean, that's, and that's significant, and so I think $1,000, while it's not a life-changing amount of money, it is an amount of money that will be helpful to those non-represented folks receiving that. And I think having the intent, of course, being that there will be a $1,000 payout, a year from now, another for those who stayed for the whole year. I think it provides a little bit of a retention incentive, not a huge retention incentive, but we're not gonna fix our retention problem by just throwing money at it. We're gonna fix it by changing the culture of the city and the atmosphere that folks are working in. The administration has been working hard on that, and this is one other small step we can take towards that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Johnson?
Madam Mayor, and to the council, I'm sort of looking at it as, okay, the 2,000 failed. Okay, we'll support the 1,000 as a compromise to move this forward if we can get it past the council. Thank you.
Is there further discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Crafton?
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, again, $1,000 is $1,000. I mean, it's better than nothing, than us not getting it passed. I want to see you guys get something, but again, I don't want to sit here and throw money at the problem. I think there's a lot of other things that we could be looking at to help retain our employees. We've also heard almost every single person state it's not just about the money, there's other benefits that they would like to see. And so if we sit here and throw a bunch of money at them, how are we going to, and then are we going to turn around and start raising their benefits as well? I mean, I think there's a balance that we need to work with together, but I would support the $1,000 right now.
Is there further discussion? Okay, we are taking a vote on the amendment of changing the 2,000 to 1,000. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Crafton.
Yes.
Councilmember Velock.
Yes.
Councilmember Rubio.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
That amendment passes unanimously with Graham, Johnson, Crafton, Velock, and Rubio in support. Technically, we do go back then since that was amended and we vote on the main motion. Is there any objection then, which the main motion has now become $1,000? Any objection?
Any
to
objection?
any further amendment?
No.
Hearing none, $1,000.
Okay.
Mayor, maybe we take a 5-minute recess.
It is now 7:26. We will reconvene at 7:31.
Madam Attorney, did you need me to do anything else?
Nope, that was perfect. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Okay, we are at persons to be heard. It's a time for members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. The first one to be heard is Tom Stearns.
Good evening. My name is Tom Stearns. I'm the Senior Ambassador for the Wasilla Area Seniors Incorporated. We have a lot of things going on. The first one, Christmas in July. Now you're saying July's a long time off, but it really isn't. So we have an opportunity. Our nutrition director, her name is Kat. That's really her name too. She's our kitchen manager, and she is challenging the community to support our meals by taking one meal, sponsoring one meal every day in July. So right now we have 8 already spoken for. We have 14 left. On your desk there, you have this. That's a sign up if you're interested in doing that. The meals cost $400 for a regular meal and $500 for a holiday meal. That also works for our Meals on Wheels drivers that go out and do meals too. Miles for Meals, mark your calendars. 15 June 2024 is the Fun Run and Fundraiser. So we'd like to see you all out there participating in that. Upcoming events. You have another handout, and it says the happiest place in Wasilla. We're going to do something at WASI. One of our people, Nancy Bidwell, is going to make a cookbook. All right, but it's a senior cookbook. It's going to be done by different seniors, and what we're looking for in this cookbook is family recipes, the stories behind those recipes, pictures, and then she said, think of this as a history cookbook. All right, so we're looking at, when you were looking at the pictures of Wasilla and stuff, that's history. Well, this cookbook will be a history cookbook. We also, an invitation to visit. We'd love you all to come and visit us. And then we've been asking if any of you know folks in the community that might want to be a board member at WASI. We're still looking for one board member. So if you know somebody, if you would ask them to call Marlene at 907-206-8795, they can get that done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stearns. And next, we have Jackie Goforth. You have 3 minutes. Please begin by stating your first and last name.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. My name is Jackie Goforth. Thank you so much for putting these meetings online for perpetuity. And if they're not, I put last time's meetings on a thumb drive so it doesn't disappear. I want you to know that what I'm telling you right now is not only the truth, but it's verifiably the truth. You may not be aware of it, but there is a Supreme Court decision from 1964. It's called the Sullivan versus New York Times case. It's about the First Amendment. And this is what they have to say about it. And I always keep losing this. All right, this is what they have to say about the First Amendment. The court reasoned that defending the principle of wide open debate will inevitably include vehement, caustic, and unpleasantly sharp attacks on government and public officials. Next, the notion that public debate should be uninhibited, robust, and wide open proved to be the most quoted phase of the decision because it summed up what assorted champions of free speech had intended, that in a democracy, all opinions, even unpleasant ones, or opinions delivered unpleasantly, have to be allowed so that full debate could take place on important issues. And finally, Justice Hugo Black said, I doubt that a country can live in freedom where its people can be made to suffer for criticizing the government. An unconditional right to say what one pleases about public affairs is what I consider to be the minimum guarantee of the First Amendment. So it should come as no surprise that in your mail you will be receiving a courtesy copy of my formal complaint that I delivered to the Attorney General and also to the Ombudsman. And the reason why I did that is because you are not allowed to tell me that I'm not allowed to speak to anybody but the attorney. And you're not allowed to tell Zane over at the library that he's not allowed to speak to me. Those are both violations of the First Amendment and violations of my right to redress of a grievance with the government. Now, the other thing you need to know is that your entire policy over at the library is based on a document called the Freedom to Read. The Freedom to Read is a fallacious document. It's only legal in Illinois. That's the only place it's been legislated. It's a document put out by a nonprofit. And it is now under attack in New Jersey because they're trying to get it passed. It's a violation of the First Amendment. It's a violation of the Supreme Court decisions, Board of Education versus PICO, 1982. United States versus American Library Association, 2003, and Milliken versus Bradley, 1974. Now, I want you to know that I will be doing this. I can't even get Zane now to answer a question to talk about a book. Isn't that a violation of my First Amendment rights? Thank you.
Next is Karen Lewis. You have 3 minutes. Please begin by stating your first and last name.
Madam Mayor and City Council, my name is Karen Lewis, and I would like to read a little bit more about the Freedom to Read Act. It's World Library Association, by the way. I could send this to you electronically so you can dig into it a little more. The Freedom to Read Act, or the FRA, violates the First Amendment of the United States Constitution Bill of Rights. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution Bill of Rights holds that Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or the right of the people to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The FRA abridges the freedom of speech via a number of means, including punitive lawsuits. The FRA entirely eliminates or seriously impedes the ability to seek redress of the government. Grandparents will be precluded by law from acting to protect their grandchildren in schools. Now, that's ridiculous. The U.S. Constitution was written to protect we the people from governmental overreach. The Freedom to Read Act was written to protect the government from claimed overreach of the people. The FRA is unconstitutional. The FRA violates Board of Education versus RICO, or PICO, in 1982. The Board of Education versus PICO is the 1982 U.S. Supreme Court case that pertains to school libraries. It rules books may not be removed because of the ideas they contained. However, the parties stipulated that the justices accepted that materials that are educationally unsuitable or pervasively vulgar may be removed immediately. Books like Genderqueer may be removed immediately under PICO. Some argue such books may not be removed because of the ideas they contain, but that is a fallacious argument, as it essentially nullifies the case, and the U.S. Supreme Court cases are not to be interpreted in a way that nullifies them. The FRA states school libraries and public libraries promote democracy by providing service to all regardless of age. That's false. That is what Chicago's American Library Association wants us all to think. But again, PICO held educationally unsuitable and pervasively vulgar materials may be removed and removed immediately, and suitability for age very much becomes part of that calculation. The FRA adheres to American Library Association dictate and represents the opposite of what the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled. Passing the FRA will lead to an annulment of PICO, and the New Jersey legislature does not trump the U.S. Constitution. Another thing the FRA states, therefore it's necessary and proper for school libraries and public libraries to acquire and maintain materials without external limitations. That's false. The PICO case is indeed a limitation on the contents of school libraries. Thanks to the PICO case, books have been successfully removed from the New Jersey public schools. The passage of FRA would put an end to PICO. FRA is simply unconstitutional. Thank you. I'll send this electronically to you. Could I have your email, please?
Next is Keith Jones. You have 3 minutes. Please begin by stating your first and last name.
My name is Keith Jones. Thanks to the mayor for putting forth that amendment for the pay raise for us, and thanks to council for approving it. But we got to find a better way. Us non-rep employees are stuck trying to negotiate a pay raise 3 minutes at a time in a public meeting. And do you guys go to your board of directors to ask for a pay raise with everybody else around? It's incredibly hard for any of us to get up here and complain. But we all got to a point where we had to, and that's where we were at with this. So before the unions, we had a meet and confer where we could have dialogue with the council members and talk about stuff. Stu said he didn't know. Well, I've been going to my director for numerous years about this issue where we're getting left behind by the union employees, and it went nowhere. And my choice was come up here and complain and be on the bad side, possibly the bad side with the mayor and my director, or just keep on keeping on. I mean, I've been with the city almost 23 years. I'm too far invested to leave, I mean, with the retirement and everything, and I like it here. I like helping the people of the city. But we have to do a better job of giving us an avenue to voice our complaints about pay. It's just, it's ridiculous. It shouldn't be this way. The unions get to negotiate in private with administration, and then you guys look at what's there. You know, like I said, we have 3 minutes to try to negotiate a pay raise. Anyways, thanks.
Thanks, Keith. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council at this time? Okay. Please begin by stating your first and last name.
Yeah, first name is Michael, last name Lopez. Again, I'm a city employee. I finished my prior comments by saying a first-rate city needs first-rate staff, and a first-rate staff needs first-rate pay. I charged you all to advocate for your people. and I thank you for some of the decisions that you made tonight. However, the penny pinching retention banter that I just watched and heard was insulting and shameful. There's 51 employees that are directly impacted by your decisions tonight. The message that I heard was that maybe next year. That's what was communicated. To set the record straight, not all departments or not all employees can be represented by unions. And also speaking specifically about the Wasilla Police Union, the WPDEA, they're not required to pay dues. They do optionally. And not only does the union advocate for their wages and at times for pay negotiation, but they also provide legal services for the high liability job that we do. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to address the council at this time? Go ahead. Please begin by stating your first and last name. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Mark Spohn, Mayor and City Council. I'm a taxpayer. I pay taxes. And I strongly object that nothing is being done. You are the leaders, you're the people controlling the purse strings, but we still are supplying pornography through our libraries. What are you doing about it? You know about it, but nothing's being done about it. And most people find this highly offensive, but if you agree with it, then apparently you don't. And you're doing it to kids. You probably got kids of your own or grandkids, and you want them subjected to this? I'll read to you out of this book, out of your library, Identical. It's page 238. Mom was off on a retreat, and this is about perversion. This guy's molesting his kids. It's good for kids to read about. Like any of that spiritual mumbo jumbo ever did her or any of us one minuscule sliver of good. Daddy had been back to Keeley for lollipop licking, my term. A few times she had vague notion that it was wrong, but she wasn't sure why and didn't know who to ask. They'd probably just be jealous. That warm summer night she slept in a thin white nightie, nothing more, nothing at all under the moonful. Shimmered against the tan of her exposed skin, and her hair whispered over the pillow like a pale waterfall. As usual, the smell of wild turkey preceded Daddy in the bright moonlight. You could see Kylie cringe in shallow sleep. Daddy crept through the door to the side of her bed, stood looking down on a very long time before stirring her with a volley of kisses, cheeks, forehead, lips. Oh, little girl, do you know how beautiful you are? No one was ever as lovely as you, not even your mother when she was a child. I can't believe you're mine. Kaylee, roused at his words, came into the moment secure in the roar of Daddy's love. She tried to sit up, but Daddy pushed her gently back down against the mattress. Stay just like that for Daddy. I want to teach you something new. He lifted her nightgown, rolled it up over her belly, coaxed her thoroughbred legs apart. She squirmed, a paltry protest. Don't move, Daddy's scarlet face underlined his command. I thought he might smack her. But as quickly as his anger flared, it dissipated. I can't understand why you approve this stuff. It's just sickening.
Please do something.
Please begin by stating your first, last name. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Ledford, City Council, staff members, people listening at home. My name is Mary Robinson, City Wasilla resident, and I represent myself. The First Amendment is great. You can say whatever you want, but along with being able to say, excuse me, whatever you want comes responsibilities, obligations, and repercussions. For instance, one of the Matsu Borough School District School Board members and Also, the person who heads Governor Dunleavy's office out here in the valley both have videos on Alaska Policy Forum explaining how you can opt out of a union. So that's their right to say that, and it explains even more fully than Councilmember Graham did about unions versus non-represented employees. To skip to something else, I'm sure your city attorney has been keeping you abreast of what's going on with the book challenges. I did some quick numbers. Perhaps you're familiar with the Mat-Su-Borough School District commissioned what they call the Library Citizen Advisory Committee. I know I'm running out of time, but to remove one book, they have only, to this point, they've reviewed 20 books. At the last school board meeting last week, they voted to remove one book, which was not in any school library, but the school board member insisted that this particular title be reviewed, even though 8 of the LCAC members explained that the book was not in the library. 2 Mat-Su-Borough School District superintendents explained that the book was not in the library, but the school board member insisted that this one title be reviewed. So, for 20 books that have been reviewed so far, there's 11 LCAC members. Each member reviews 4 books every meeting. That's 44 copies, roughly a conservative small c estimate, $17. Comes out to $748, shipping, sending someone to Barnes & Noble, however it works out. Let's just call it $1,000, again, conservative estimate. Food and beverage that's provided, $200. Attorney fees, roughly $500 an hour, $4 an hour, for 4 hours. We're up to $3,200 by 7 meetings. $22,400 was spent by the borough school district to remove one book. So I leave you with that. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Please begin by stating your first and last name. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Linda Spohn, and pornography is an addiction. Why would taxpayers be forced to provide addictive material to minors? Why would librarians fight so hard to keep these perverted, vulgar, obscene filth in the libraries? We have never said anything about banning or burning books. They're available for whoever wants them. But the taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for them. What will we provide next? I mean, there's no limit to this. Will there be more? Will there be more pornography coming out in the libraries? How about drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, condoms? They're all addictions. Are we going to provide these for people too? Taxpayers don't provide everything for everyone. And do we not get a say on how our tax dollars are spent? We just turn over our tax dollars, but we're not supposed to say anything? You know, we're taxed for a great plenty that I don't agree with, but I have never complained. You know, to be taxed for pornography is just a step too far. Okay. To force taxpayers to pay for Marxist ideologies such as sexualized library books, transgendering youth, and pushing LGBTQ agendas in our libraries and schools, not to mention low test scores, climate alarmism, and COVID vaccinations, is more than enough reason to close these indoctrinating institutions in the Mat-Su-Borough if you can't get a handle on this. And maybe you can't. Maybe it's impossible. Close them. Thank you.
Is there anyone there anyone else that would like to come and testify at this time? Please begin by stating your first and last name. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, Madam Mayor. My name is Katie Sanders. Just listening to all the conversation, I just wanted to voice my opinion. I believe the First Amendment allows you to speak. It doesn't necessarily doesn't necessarily guarantee you an answer to your question, because maybe that person doesn't want to speak. That's his First Amendment right. And I believe books in the library are part of the First Amendment, their freedom to say what they want to, and if the school district or the city or whoever wants those books in the library, that's fine, but it shouldn't, just the person themselves can make that decision. It's not anybody else's choice to make. I personally have read those books, a lot of them, a lot of the ones that have been brought up to be removed from the libraries, and I wouldn't remove them simply because there's a lot of kids that this is actually happening to, that they actually see this at home, and you're taking away their resources and letting them know that they're not alone and they have places they can turn to. If those books are gone, who's on their side? LGBTQ or equality, I don't think it has anything to do with LGBTQ. Everybody is supposed to be treated the same, and that's where our schools are headed. They want to teach people to be treated and treat other people the same. It doesn't have anything to do with what member of the community they are, whether they're black or white or LGBTQ or not. And so tell me where the First Amendment right ends. Like, if it can't be expressed in a book, what's the point? Anyway, I'm just speaking as a reader, and those books saved a lot of lives when I was in high school. As I read them, people needed a place to turn.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else? Please begin by stating your first and last name. You have.
My name is Tom Stearns. I'm speaking as a citizen. I find what I have been listening to for the last several months as appalling, because what the people are saying is going out on the World Wide Web. All the children that are listening to this are hearing all this porn, and it's being put out by the very people that say they don't want them to have porn. And that's hypocrisy. Now, the other point here is, where are the parents? Why aren't the parents taking care of their children and watching what they are doing and what they should be doing on any given day? That's their responsibility. It's not the city's responsibility. It's the parents' responsibility to take care of their children. And I'm tired of hearing all of this. I fully agree that pornography is bad. And if we have it in our libraries, there's a First Amendment right to have them there. There were bad books when I was growing up, okay? And my parents made sure I didn't read those books, okay? And so why are we even discussing all this stuff when parents, and I have not heard once in the months that I've been here listening to all this, parent involvement. And that's the key.
We're all parents.
That's the key.
You can't speak out.
That's the key. Parents need to be involved with their children, and they need to be the ones to say, hey, this is wrong, and teach them what's right and what's wrong, and to keep them away from that. And if that means keeping them away from the public libraries, then that's what they ought to do. Thank you.
Okay, next. Please begin by stating your first and last name. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Jesse Griffiths, and I want to thank you for some of your decisions tonight. And I would also ask that as we go further into this, that we find a way better than having just a 3-minute conversation to get the information across to you guys. There's some of the information that was clean. There's some of it that was a little diluted just because not enough time to actually dig into it. The unions have people that represent them. I once was a part of that before I chose to step over. They have 2 people that everybody helps pay, that they have time to go sit down through those things and discuss and make decisions for the greater good of everybody else that's employed through the union. And I just ask that we would find a way to better deal with our non-reps to where we have someone or somehow we can represent that to where when we do come in, we're not having to do it on a public forum, as Keith said, to where we actually have some stability and some clarity and the ability to speak without being stressed up here trying to go through things that we're already struggling with. And we really would like to get a better way of doing business to where we're not just airing dirty laundry out to everybody that doesn't need to be aired, and just simply trying to figure out a way for you guys to better help us do the job that we need to do and represent all of our non-union reps here, because there's a vast array of them that do different tasks. And I just ask that we would find just a more level playing field to where we could actually be more human with you guys and share the information that needs to be shared with you. And that if there is questions, we have the opportunity to rebuttal on that and have the ability to show you actual numbers or whatever it is. Because I think when you start looking at the numbers, yes, we made some good steps today, but I think, there's a better representation on our end if we had the opportunity to do it. And that's what I have for you. And I appreciate your guys' time and effort, because it's a lot to choose when it comes to big dollars. But, I just think we need to find a better way of doing this part of it. Thank you for your time.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to address the council? Stu? You need to take a recess before you die?
My name is KJ Martin Albright, and I just wanted to thank the council for passing Ordinance 2413 tonight. Because of this, your planning staff, your clerk's office, your finance department, your sales tax auditor, your purchasing and contracting officer, your library staff, your museum staff, the administrative staff in City Hall, human resources, information technology, the public works support staff, senior management, the deputy administration, and the mayor, not to mention the police lieutenants, will see an increase in their pay. It's long overdue and it's well-deserved, and I wanted to thank you for taking the steps to do that. I see genuine concern to keep this dialogue going forward, and I'm excited to see what you guys do with the employees in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, KJ. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to?
Point of order. This gentleman spoke twice. Are we allowed to speak twice?
No, ma'am, he did not. He spoke twice, once as an ambassador from Wasilla and once as a private citizen.
Okay. So we get another round though, right? Round 2?
Okay. Is there anyone else? Seeing no one,
Madam Mayor, request a 5-minute recess.
we will take a 5-minute recess, so Sue don't die on me. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Is there a second?
Rubio seconds.
It's been moved by Councilmember Crafton and seconded by Councilmember Rubio to approve the consent agenda as read. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Okay, we are now on to unfinished business. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the AM.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. AM number 2408, confirmation of the mayoral appointment of Igor Galloway to the Planning Commission. This item was postponed from the February 12th, 2024 regular city council meeting. We do have a motion to approve on the floor.
Okay.
Thank
Madam
you.
Clerk.
Through the chair to the body, just so you're aware, we verified that the person that submitted their application no longer qualifies for office as of some records that we checked today. And so if somebody would like, if there's no discussion, I would recommend a motion to postpone indefinitely AM number 2408.
Okay, is there a motion to postpone indefinitely AM number 2408?
Madam Mayor, as opposed to a motion to postpone indefinitely, I recommend that we vote on this and vote it down so that there's a clear record that he does not meet the qualifications, as opposed to motion to postpone indefinitely may lend some people the idea that it could come back later. So.
Okay, Mr. Graham, would you like to make that motion?
Well, there's already a motion on the floor to admit, to move AM number 2408. All I'm recommending is that council members vote no.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
Second by Councilman Johnson.
Okay, the motion's been made by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Johnson. Is there objection to the motion? Or do we need a roll call vote? Please do a roll call vote.
This is on the approval of AM number 2408. Councilmember Crafton.
No.
Councilmember Vlock.
No.
Councilmember Rubio.
No.
Councilmember Graham.
No.
Councilmember Johnson.
No.
Motion fails with Graham, Johnson, Crafton, Vlock, and Rubio opposed.
Okay. We are now at new business. So, Madam Clerk, would you please read the title under new business?
Thank you. 2411, accepting the resignation of Councilmember Colleen Sullivan Leonard and declaring council seat vacant effective February 26, 2024.
Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 24-11?
Madam Mayor, I move AM number 2411.
Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I second.
The motion's been made by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Crafton on resolution serial number 2411. Is there a discussion? Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move this out of the consent agenda so that we could have an opportunity to comment on Councilperson Sullivan Leonard's exceptional record of service here to the city and to her legislative district for the years that she served as our representative in the State House. Colleen served for 6 years on this body and was a leader and a driving force in a lot of things, including land use, Title 16 issues. She was here when the previous comp plan was put together, and when I have questions about the comp plan, I don't go to planning, I go to Colleen because she is that well versed on things and has kept up with things. So following her 6 years on the council here, she ran for mayor against then Mayor Ruprecht, was not successful, but was then elected what was then the District 7 representative to the Alaska State House, which served Wasilla. And then following 3 terms, I believe, she came back to the city council and has served very well. Colleen and I don't agree on everything, but we do agree to talk about everything, and that's important, I think, in not just in today's society, but in today's families and today's governments and today's NGOs, nonprofits, that sort of thing. The ability to sit and talk and reason things out is great. And like, Mr. Griffith's comments earlier, you can't really do anything in 3 minutes. And Colleen was a big believer in that, so she dug into things as much as she could and did a great job. So I just wanted to pull this out so that I could personally thank her for her many years of service. I'm sure she's not done serving the community. She just may be done being an elected official. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is there further discussion?
Madam
Mr.
Mayor.
Crafton?
Thank you. I would just like to take a moment as well and say thank you, Colleen, to your service to the city and this community. I did take a moment when her husband was down here to make sure he echoed my comments to her. She was definitely a wealth of knowledge as somebody that's still fairly new to this elected seat, being able to glean from her, and I just hope, as Mr. Garmer said, she's not done serving our community, and as somebody that we can still call and glean some knowledge from. So thank you again, Colleen, for all that you've done.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Okay. We are on to communication. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the IM and meeting minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. IM number 2404, monthly financial reports for the period ending December 31st, 2023, to include the month-to-date expenditure report, disbursements greater than $10,000, investment report, quarterly report of businesses receiving a penalty waiver for sales tax, and commission meeting minutes, Planning Commission, February 13th, 2024.
Thank you. Okay, we are on to audience comments. It's a time for members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. Is there anyone present who would like to address the city council? If so, please come forward and begin by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person.
My name is Karen Lewis, Madam Mayor and City Council. The First Amendment does not include obscene materials, just so everybody's clear on that. And as far as Mary's report, there were 19 books when removed, but 12 books, the vote was to remove them, but it wasn't unanimous. So 12 of those books went to administration and 5 went to high schools. They did not send any back to the middle schools, which is really good to know. So just wanted to update you, or complete that report, I guess.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council at this time?
Absolutely. Madam Mayor and Council, my name is Jackie Goforth, and I am absolutely thrilled at that gentleman's response to having this book read. Because do you understand that this book is in the young adult section and they will check it out to 10-year-olds? Do you understand who is the target audience of this book? Do you understand that every chance that has been in front of librarians to remove it, they fight to allow it to be in children's hands? And this is what was said last March at the Alaska Library Conference in Fairbanks. There is a necessity for sex-themed books for the youths 12 years and older. Sexualized fiction is meant to teach lessons about sex and relationships for the reader to carry away the information and incorporate it into their lives. Please remember that when you remember what's in this book. It's a gentle gateway into the world of sex, Helkenberg asserted. For youth who come from conservative families, sexualized novels are a kind of safe or secret source for the kids. They're not as obvious as a nonfiction book on sexuality. That means the parents will often not question what their children are reading because the information is kind of hidden within. And I made you a promise that I would read from this book since I can't get it removed, and I can't. Now that my First Amendment rights have been violated, I can't even get it. I can't even talk to the librarian. You do know, I'm not going to read it. It's sick.
Yeah, it is sick.
It is sick. What is happening? You know what? I'm going to tell you what your mayor said. The lady has been told by her attorneys she's only to talk to them. I haven't been told by anybody to talk to anybody. They ignore me. Next. Our director at the library has been told, you don't talk to her, you send her to the attorney. That's a violation of my right to redress a grievance to the government. How am I supposed to redress a grievance to the government if I can't even get them to talk to me? We've moved everything from young adult to adult, and that still didn't satisfy them. No, they didn't. No book has been physically moved anywhere. They put 8.5 pieces of paper that say this is temporarily adult on the ends of the shelving units. I have pictures. They were sent to the Attorney General and to the Ombudsman. That is complete fabrication. And finally, you know what? Karma will bite you. Karma will bite you. I put this on a thumb drive because I don't want it to disappear, because I'm going to be playing it for the Attorney General. You're not allowed to tell me who I can talk to and can't talk to. You're not allowed to take away my First Amendment rights and to tell me karma will bite me. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council at this time? Seeing no one, we'll bring you back to the dais. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. We will see you all here day after tomorrow on Wednesday, where we will resume joint meeting with the Planning Commission on Title 16 rewrite. And then also at that meeting, I don't know if you've had a chance to review the agenda, but there is one resolution that the council will just vote on. So that's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Madam City Attorney.
No comment, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Crafton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just always like to say thank you to the public as well as the city employees for coming out today. We love hearing your testimonies and your feedback as to what you're saying, and we do hear what you're saying. We understand that there is a bigger problem with how your pay raises and benefits are being addressed, and so it's something that definitely needs to be worked on. So thank you for bringing it to our attention, and thank you so much. We look forward to see you guys on Wednesday, talk about Title 16.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Council. I do want to also raise attention to and thanks to Colleen for her service. She's has her resignation is a loss because of the experience and that she raises or came to the council with. So I'm going to miss her comments. And other than that, I want to thank everybody for their comments. We hear you. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean we agree with you. We in the council have limited authority to just do things except for budgets and the alike. And some of your comments will definitely make it into our budget discussions in the future. Thank you.
Councilmember Rubio.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I love seeing the full house tonight. I love the bravery of the city employees that continued to pursue the salary increase by taking 3 minutes at a time to voice their little stories. I like that we passed the ordinance, and I like that we're headed in the right direction. I do look forward to coming up with a new process for the non-unions, because I do believe that privacy is a good thing. Other than that, I look forward to seeing everybody on Wednesday. Thank you.
Councilmember Velock.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for everyone who came tonight. And I do want to say I'm going to miss Colleen up here with me too. She is just a wealth of knowledge and just knows, she's just so experienced that she would always be one I just bounce things off of, and she was just always there to help in any way she could. So really going to miss her. And I am glad we got the ordinance passed today for the salary increase. And yeah, and there's ways that this can be addressed more easily than having to come to the council like that. And I don't think it'll be hard to come up with something for everyone. So that's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thanks to everybody that came tonight. There was a lot of testimony about a lot of different things and a lot of time spent, particularly on the pay and benefits for non-represented employees. And like several of you said, you know, how can you possibly negotiate in 3 minutes what a union employee gets 6 months or a year to negotiate? How can you possibly negotiate when you're limited to going to your director or to the mayor? And I'm here to tell you that you can come to a council member at any time. You are a citizen, of the city of Wasilla, and the council members up here take their time to make sure that you are represented. Essentially in city government, there's two different branches of government. There's the administration, which is the mayor and her staff, and then there is the legislative arm, which is the city council, which are all elected members as well. So while the mayor certainly has tremendous leeway and capability to make things happen for employees, that doesn't mean that he or she is the only way to get things done. So make sure that that you're heard and that you bring things forward. So as a council member, one of the things that we rely on is the packet, whether it's electronic or paper, really doesn't matter, but this is where the staff gives us summaries of what's going to happen and lays out why things should or should not happen. In the case of the raises, it wasn't laid out very well, which is why I had issue with the bonus, and why I asked questions about what does it cost to be in the union. There's just wasn't enough information there to make what I thought was a decision based on science as opposed to a decision based on emotion there. So in the case of the bonuses, let me say this: if the 15% was to bring us to equity with the non-reps, then wouldn't the bonus put the non-reps over the represented? So there was no discussion of that in our packet, and there was no discussion of it on the floor, which is why I recommended that we pay the bonus now, and then we look at a retention bonus sometime in the future. And as the clerk and the attorney told us, we can't really obligate future councils to doing that, but when the budget negotiations move forward, and the budget, the new fiscal year starts, we can make sure that that is included, and I will certainly pledge to you to make sure that that is brought forward. I can't guarantee you it will pass, but I can certainly bring that forward on your behalf, because as you all know, it's very difficult to operate your department when there are so many empty seats in there, and or so much churn in the employee base that you're constantly sitting next to a new employee. So we'll go from there. But anyway, I really enjoyed the conversation. Believe it or not, I learned a lot, and hope that I learned a lot at every city council meeting, so that was good. I also want to again congratulate Wasilla High School volleyball, girls volleyball state champs. That's a great thing. And if you haven't met any of those girls that play volleyball, boy, there's some intensity there. I'm telling you, volleyball is a tough sport, and those girls are some intense players there. So congratulations to them. Also wanted again to express my thanks to Colleen for her many years of public service, and lastly wanted to apologize for trying to die up here. I apologize. Hope that didn't distract too many people there. So, but anyway, thank you all for being here. It's always a pleasure to serve you. Thank you.
I too would like to thank Colleen for all of her years of service, not only at the council table, but down in the legislators, because that's not an easy task down there. You're away from home, and sometimes you're there for 90 days, sometimes it's 120, sometimes it'll be till July, depending on what's coming down. So, Colleen, you have really been a very astute public servant. You have served the citizens of Wasilla extremely well, and I thank you for that. Also, I think the city of Wasilla has some of the best employees out there. They go above and beyond. They take on more than what their job description says. And I truly appreciate that, because I think that you guys have the city's best interest at heart. So we'll figure out a way that you can voice your, or negotiate, whatever you want to say, for your wages and whatever. Because what restricts us is the Open Meetings Act. You can only have three. You can have 3 council members. And then if you have more, you violate the Open Meetings Act. So, but like everything else, we'll figure this out. But thank you guys for coming. And with no further business at hand, we will adjourn at 8:32.
City.